Welcome to this explainer. Imagine waking up tomorrow and boom, realizing a brand new currency has just been injected into the global economy, one that literally dictates the cost of almost everything we buy, sell, or ship. Today, we're diving into a totally fascinating GeneCapsule investigation that unpacks a massive structural change happening right under our noses. We are talking about how carbon data is fundamentally rewriting the rules of global business. Now, for the longest time, whenever we talked about carbon emissions, it was strictly an environmental thing, right? Like focused entirely on planetary health. But this investigation takes a totally different angle. It reveals a monumental shift in how the global economy actually works. It's the kind of shift that impacts global supply chains, completely slashes or saves profit margins, and just rewires international trade in ways we're only really just beginning to grasp.
So think about this. If you asked a room full of top executives today, hey, what is the most valuable new currency in global business? What do you think they'd say? You'd probably hear things like cryptocurrency, maybe AI models, consumer data, or just the surging strength of some emerging market fiat. But we are actually looking at a radical paradigm shift in global economics here. The real answer? It's not something you can physically hold in your wallet, and it's not minted by a traditional central bank in Washington or Frankfurt. We are talking about something entirely new. Invisible, sure, but infinitely powerful.
Let's look at how this compares to what we know. For centuries, the fiat system was pretty straightforward. Traditional financial ledgers dictated your business power. Standard financial data just reigned supreme. But what the GeneCapsule investigation argues, and this is a real game changer, is that carbon data is no longer just some environmental metric. It is actively functioning as a parallel business currency. Imagine two manufacturing companies, right? Both are pulling in the exact same annual revenue. On paper, under the old system, they look absolutely identical. But in this new reality, one company is carrying massive untracked carbon debt while the other runs a highly efficient low-emission operation. Well, suddenly their actual valuations and their ability to even trade across borders are entirely different. We're literally seeing the transition from the old way of doing business into a world where carbon data acts as hard currency. You don't just have a financial ledger anymore. You've got a carbon ledger, and they are becoming equally critical to simply surviving in the market. Section 1. The new business currency. Turning carbon data into the world's new business currency. Okay, think about how companies have historically handled carbon. For years, your carbon footprint was, let's be honest, essentially a PR issue. It got handed off to the marketing department, buried somewhere in the back pages of an annual sustainability report just to generate some goodwill, and then promptly ignored by the folks actually running the numbers. Well, what we're learning now is that era, it is officially over. Your carbon footprint is a tangible global business asset today. It carries heavy weight, it has definitive value, and the people managing it aren't just in the sustainability office anymore, they are sitting squarely in the CFO's suite. It's wild, but today traditional corporate accountants are literally having to learn climate science. Why? Because corporate loan interest rates, investor valuations, and even insurance premiums are becoming directly tied to these carbon metrics. Section 2. Decoding CBAM. Now, to really wrap our heads around this, we have to look at the regulatory solution that's basically acting as the global mint for this new money. It's called CBAM. That stands for the Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism. In plain English, CBAM is essentially a border tariff. It's a tax applied to carbon-intensive goods entering a market. So if you want to sell products into regions like the European Union, you have to pay a price based on exactly how much carbon was emitted to manufacture those products. Think about that word for a second, mint. A mint takes raw material, stamps it with authority, and turns it into a recognized currency that holds value in trade. And you know what? That is exactly what CBAM does. It takes the abstract, sometimes kind of murky challenge of global carbon tracking and absolutely forces it into a concrete, high-stakes financial system. Simply put, without a mint, carbon is just a metric. With CBAM, carbon becomes money. Let's break down exactly how this macroeconomic policy functions step by step. Picture a massive shipping container full of industrial steel crossing the ocean. Step 1 is raw carbon tracking. The importer has to gather the data, rigorously counting up the exact emissions used to forge that steel all the way back at its origin. Then comes step 2. This is where the CBAM regulation slams down like a heavy minting press. The regulation assigns strict, non-negotiable rules and frameworks right onto that raw emissions data. And finally, step 3. Carbon becomes tangible currency. That raw data has been formally converted. It now literally dictates the financial penalty you pay to move those goods across the border. It determines who you can profitably trade with and fundamentally alters what your bottom line looks like. Your carbon spreadsheet is now your balance sheet. This right here is exactly what you should take away from this. It's a simple but absolutely profound truth. In this new era, if your carbon data is poor or inaccurate or even just incomplete, your business pays a very real, very heavy price. It's exactly as if you are running a massive financial deficit. Your environmental accounting now holds the exact same weight as your financial accounting. There is no way you can ignore one while focusing on the other anymore. The tons of CO2 on your carbon spreadsheet dictate your company's actual financial health every bit as much as the dollars and cents do. Section 3, Carbon Data Becomes Money. Okay, so we've talked a lot about the theory and the regulation. Now let's explore how this actually functions as currency on the ground in the real world. First off, we're seeing global exchange rates for carbon. Just as you would constantly monitor the conversion rate between dollars and euros, businesses are now having to calculate the fluctuating value and cost of carbon across different international borders. Second, we have mandatory tracking and audits. You know how the IRS or major financial regulators demand to see your financial books? Well, regulatory bodies under CBAM are demanding to rigorously audit your carbon data to make sure you aren't committing what's basically the modern equivalent of financial fraud. And third, there's a direct impact on global trade costs. If you want to import something essential, say agricultural fertilizer or raw aluminum, the carbon intensity of that specific product literally dictates the border tax you pay. It directly moves the needle on global supply chain economics. Think about the traditional banking system we all rely on every single day. You've got institutional banks, rigorous financial audits, and fiat exchange rates that govern trade, right? Now I want you to map that directly onto this new reality. Mirroring the central banks, we have CBAM, the ultimate regulatory authority controlling the flow. Mirroring corporate financial audits, we have strictly enforced mandatory carbon tracking. And mirroring those fiat exchange rates, we have dynamic, ever-changing carbon pricing. Guys, we haven't just created a new environmental rulebook here. We have built an entirely parallel financial ecosystem that operates right side by side with the traditional one. So we'll wrap up this explainer with a final provocative thought for you to chew on. Is your business ready to trade in the new carbon economy? Because the reality highlighted by this GeneCapsule investigation is that, ready or not, the Mint is fully operational. The rules of global trade have forever changed, and this parallel economy is live right now. If you're still out there treating carbon as just some fluffy environmental issue handled by your PR team, you are missing the single biggest financial shift of our time. The Mint is running, the currency is actively circulating. The only question left is, are you ready to trade, or are you already bankrupt in a currency you didn't even know existed? Thanks so much for joining me, and I really hope this gives you a powerful new lens through which to view the future of your business.